All right, Steeler fans, it's time for the mailbag segment. You know what to do. Every Tuesday, I put out a tweet. Find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. All you have to do is respond, and I'll answer your question. Let's get this thing rolling. Paul Orlando, is Pickens tradable at this point, or has he made himself undesirable to other teams because of his attitude and effort? I feel it would be addition by subtraction for our Steelers. Package him in the deal to get Devontae Adams. So I don't know right now if there's a lot of teams that would want George Pickens. They might view him as a ticking time bomb or a headache. And I also don't know if the Steelers want to get rid of George Pickens. He is still talented. They can still use his talent. I think we could all agree if he had a better complement opposite him, he would probably be able to do more damage and would be happier. He'd be a happier soldier. I would suggest that if a trade happens with Pickens, it wouldn't be in season. It would be after the season. It would be going into his fourth year. Take that for what it's worth. Let's go to Believers. He said, Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. Who needs to step it up this week versus their performance last week? Options were coaching, mostly offense, both offense and defense equally. And then lastly, we're mostly defense. I went with both offense and defense equally. If people want to hang that loss against the Cowboys on just the offense, they were watching a different game. Yes, I know the takeaways helped, but the defense also surrendered way too much, way too many chunk plays, way too many third down conversions. In the last drive alone, get out of here. Believers continued. Can we all take a little bit of time to enjoy the implosion happening in Cleveland this year? The downfall began with the exile of Baker. It does seem like that's getting bad in Cleveland. And hey, just like you said, I'm here for it. Let's go to Lori. She said the Steelers are still trying to play quote unquote their style of football, but it hasn't been successful. Do you think they really think they will win championships like that? Have you seen these offenses? Kansas City, Baltimore, San Francisco. They all play a completely different game. When do you say enough and make a change? I feel like when you look at the Steelers roster and the way it was built, they have invested so much in terms of draft capital, salary cap into the defense that they have no option other than to play this way. Remember that the offense that is assembled right now is still extremely young, and two quarterbacks that are not under contract for next year and are less than $5 million combined. So they have no other option. If they do want to come into the 21st century in terms of offense, welcome to 2024, I think they're going to have to make some moves. They might have to move some players, and they're going to have to get serious about trying to even it between the offense and defense. Can you sacrifice a few more points per game on defense to add more points per game on offense? And will it make a difference? That's the tough decision that they're going to have to make sooner rather than later when it comes to their quarterback situation. Todd Hall said, Hey, Jeff, great coverage on a long, disappointing night this weekend. Got my t-shirts from the first Victory Monday. Thanks again. And are there any plans for an FFSN or SCN app? So the app, thank you very much for the kind words, by the way. I hope you enjoy that shirt. Let me know how it goes. Send me a picture. We'll retweet it. Love to get people in some SEN gear. But I think for me, the app is still being discussed. We're trying to make it unique. We're trying to make it different and interactive. So stay tuned for that. I've got some ideas. I'm an ideas guy. I'm not an execution guy when it comes to getting that done because I don't know how to do it. So I tell the SEO, hey, here's my idea. He takes it to his team. Can we do this? How much would it cost? We are in the process. We'll put it that way. Brian Haynes asks, how worried are you about the offense? Are there minor fixes or big changes needed? And by the way, I really commend you and Dave for the show at 2 a.m. I tried to stay up, but 5 a.m. work comes really early. So a lot of people said like they were super happy that we did the show. What's funny is that Dave and I can't speak for Dave. I'll speak for myself. I never questioned doing a show, even when there was a delay. It's just, okay, we got to do the show late. This is a job for us. We take it serious. And if the job means that we have to be up at 2 a.m. and doing a 45 to an hour minute show, recapping a really crappy game, got to do it. But anyways, how worried am I about the offense? I think there are minor fixes and big changes needed. But at the same time, I want to see if they can bring in some wide receiver help. We'll put it that way, because I think that would fix a lot of issues on this team. All right, Tendercat. Actually, I'm sorry. Brian Haynes asked another one. Is TJ Watt a top 10 defender in history? If not, where would you put him? I don't know about top 10 in history, man. You go back and look at some of these great defenders of old. It's tough to compare. He's an old school type player, though. TJ Watt, if he's, I wouldn't say top 10, top 20. I'd put him there. And he's not even done. That's the crazy part. All right, Tendercat said, this is going to be a couple parter continued in the comments, so I apologize. Hopefully it still makes the podcast. Man, Jeff, going to that game was a complete letdown. I drive 11 hours both ways to go to a game every year. I had a lot of drive time on the way back to contemplate. Yeah, I bet you did. He continues, I thoroughly think Mike Tomlin is the Uncle Sam of the Steelers organization. Seeing starting players on the sidelines, not looking at a tablet, but rather walking around aimlessly, there is no unity. Part of me wonders why the players say what they say after the game, because otherwise they will get shunned by Tomlin, i.e. Okorafor. People blame Pickens for acting the way he does, but man, wouldn't you get tired of the same crappy thing that doesn't get better? I completely believe Tomlin is the problem. There is a quote from Peaky Blinders, and it says this: we can't escape you. Your lethal hand is always on our shoulders. This organization will keep dwindling into the waters of mediocrity as long as they let Tomlin hold the torch. Strong words, man. Strong words. There was no question in there. So I'm glad you got to vent on my podcast. All right, let's continue. Haskins QV1 says, hey, Jeff, it's been a while since I last asked a question, but I never miss an episode. Do you think the Steelers should just turn Justin Fields loose? Stop being conservative with him? As always, hashtag Ride or Die Crew. All right, QB Haskins 1. Here's my take on this. This is very similar to the conversation that I had on this podcast almost a year ago when I said, listen, Kenny Pickett, is he the problem? Is Matt Canada the problem? Until you eliminate one of those two, you'll never know. And it just so happened that right after I did that podcast, they fired Matt Canada. And unfortunately, we never truly got to see Kenny Pickett without him, but still, that's neither here nor there. Here we have another situation very similar. And when I say it's very similar is the fact that you have two quarterbacks, one that's aging, one that's still young. Both are not under contract next year. If you even, the Steelers, that is, if they even have an inkling that they want to keep Justin Fields around for the long term, you got to see what this guy can do. And I'm not saying you have to see what he can do in terms of having him be careless with the football, but you also can't have kid gloves on the guy either. You got to let him play. You got to design a game plan that's aggressive. Let him use his athleticism. What you're seeing, in my opinion, is not Justin Fields letting it loose, as you put it. It's Justin Fields trying to be careful. There's a very stark difference there. When Justin Fields does have to let it loose, go back to the second half of Indianapolis, and that's what you get. So think about if we got that for 4 quarters, because the coaching staff, they believed enough in him to allow him to do that. That's what I want to see. I honestly got to do. Let's go to Matthias. He said, I've been seeing this regarding average separation floating around. I'm not sure if it's accurate or not. If accurate, is it scheme or talent? So it's a graph. And basically what it has is quarterback accuracy and average separation. So you want to be above the median line. And then in terms of how if your receivers are getting really open, then you're going to be on the far right. If your receivers are not getting open, you're going to be on the far left. And Justin Fields is on the far left. Now, he's above that median line, so he is accurate, but his receivers are not getting open. And so the question that you ask, Matthias, was, is it scheme or talent? I think it's both. I think it's these receivers, although they're good for maybe a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 role, they're not wide receiver 2s. And so you're asking them to do things that you're just not capable of. It's nothing against these individuals personally. It's everything to do with the fact that they are just struggling. And I think, too, it is scheme. Calvin Austin III. The guy's got like 4.2 speed. I'm not buying that you can't utilize him to help change what the defense is doing. So I think it's both. Let's go to Brian Haynes. He has a couple more. He said, do we see Roman Sunday? I don't think so. If you didn't see him last week, unless he gets healthy all of a sudden, I don't think you do. And I think he is more injured than people think. Brian Haynes also said, would you rather a Patrick Mahomes type quarterback with a mediocre defense or a mediocre quarterback with a 2008 defense? If you have a mediocre quarterback, you can win with an elite defense, but you still have to have a mediocre quarterback. So the question is Justin Fields and or Russell Wilson mediocre enough to win a bunch of games? Well, we'll see. Tom East said, Jeff, I got nothing but questions, so I will pick one. How do we motivate this team to do better? I'm tired of just getting by and that being the standard. This team's attitude needs a reset. Hashtag ride or die crew for life. Thank you, Tom. Great question, as always. So for me, I think that the motivation it should be there differently for everyone. For someone like George Pickens, man, you got one more year left after this on your rookie deal before you get paid. So you better get your act together, get your head on straight, because whether you're going to get paid in Pittsburgh or somewhere else, no one's going to want to sign a headache. That's motivation. You have players like Cam Hayward. He just wants to win a championship. He signed his last contract in the NFL. I think that really it's all about hitting every single player, motivating them in a different way. You can't motivate everyone the same way. Let's go to Brandon Diaz. He asked 2 questions. Let me see if I can find the first one. Oh, I can't. What the heck? Anyways, we'll come back to Brandon for sure. We'll come back to Brandon once I find it, which it'll show up probably right after say that. All right, on to Las Vegas. Here we go. Who needs to step up this week? Will Minka finally make a splash play? And Muth needs more targets. Will he have his best game since Big Ben this week or just another average showing? Let's start with the first one. Who needs to step up this week? I think personally, it's the offensive line. They need to step up in run blocking, pass blocking. They do their job. Let the skill position players do theirs. Will Minka finally make a splash play? I sure as hell hope so. Will Pat Freiermuth have his best game since Big Ben? Maybe, but I'm going to guess no, because I just don't think they utilize the tight ends that way. And then the last one, assuming the fan DEFCON level is a 1, what can we do to raise it? It's easy. You win football games. That's all you got to do. All right, let's go to Diego Fernandez. Greetings from Steelers Brazil Nation. Did Tomlin hold the offense back when Canada was OC? Is he holding Smith's offense and Fields back? I think that Mike Tomlin has been very open and honest with his coordinators and said, look, we have this defense. Just don't kill us. Don't F it up. And unfortunately, when you say that, sometimes it brings in a hesitation as a play caller and as a player. That's not good. Next, can defenders only blame communication for the continuing mistakes? Isn't it also a coach issue? The coaches have to get them in position. The players have to execute. The coaches have to prepare these players like a Minkah Fitzpatrick to get everyone in line in the secondary. But if Beanie Bishop doesn't hear them or doesn't know or doesn't do it, who's to blame? The coach? No. Minkah? No. Beanie? Yes. And that's just an example. So I think that blame can go around a lot of different ways depending on the issue. Let's go to Annie. Hey, Jeff, thanks for working tirelessly to bring us the best Steelers content. Does your source have any more information about the Pickens situation? Sorry, Tomlin, but I'm not buying what you're selling. Nothing new on the Pickens situation. That's never been brought up. No one's ever told me that they were looking to trade the guy. I know that's like Diana Rossini has been saying that. I am not hearing that at all. As of right now, as of this being recorded. That can change quickly. It's a phone call away, but it hasn't happened yet. Eric said, love the show, Jeff. My question is, do you think if the Steelers keep losing with this type of offense that they might try to change their approach? I think they have to. And I think that the Andy White, Omar Khan fingerprints on this offense are just starting. The attention to detail in the trenches and all the rookies that they have that are playing significant snaps, you're going to start to see that bleed into other positions. Najee Harris probably isn't going to be back. How do they handle running backs? We're just seeing the beginning of that. The question is can they get it done quick enough that it matches with the defense that's already in place? William Harper, he said, I got one. Does Russell Wilson's starting quarterback actually change that offense? We've seen multiple GMs, new coaches, new quarterbacks, and offensive coordinators with completely different schemes. But since Ben, we've had yet to see anything close to a competent offense. I don't think Russ changes that. Do you? I honestly don't. Unless you are developing a quick, rhythmic, timing pattern offense, and you're never going to really take shots downfield, and you're not going to want you're not going to ask your quarterback to move and maneuver the pocket. If you're doing that, then Russell Wilson might be better, but I don't think that's what this offensive line and this offense is built around. All right, James asked, Jeff, quick thank you to the SCN team for their late night commitment and coverage this past weekend. Is the team being conservative from lack of effort or from lack of talent, or conservative from living in past fears? Also, is Omar Khan at any fault now? I don't know about the conservative approach or lack of talent. It might be both. I don't think past fears has anything to do with it. Is Omar Khan at fault? I will say this. If Omar Khan does not get a wide receiver, whether it's Devontae Adams or someone else at the trade deadline, then yes, he is at fault for not completing that position group. They've addressed almost every other position, but that's a glaring hole, And so in that regard, yes, I think he would be at fault. Paul Orlando says, it was horrible starting the weekend depressed and angry. Now let's get back on track and get a W against the Raiders. Amen, Paul. Thank you very much. All right. I did find Tom East's other question. Jeff, one more thing. Thanks to you and your staff for working as hard as yins do. The labor of love, man. I mean, I get paid. This is my job to talk sports for a living. I have a golf podcast, NFL podcast, Steelers podcast. Are you kidding me? I appreciate the kind words, but man, I know it's my job, but it's certainly not work. We'll put it that way. Let's go to Nick. Jeff, the Colts and Cowboys have statistically bad defenses. Both gave the Steelers fits far more than expected. I think it's the proverbial training wheel still being on Fields. Case in point, Allen comes in, and on his second play, the ball gets pushed down the field. What say you? I agree. I think that it's not just the training wheels. I think it's the way that they're probably coaching this quarterback. When you saw Kenny Pickett play, to use him as an example, it was don't F it up. So what happens? They might see a throw over the middle and they want to go there. They're back in their mind. What are they hearing? Don't F it up. Don't F it up. They don't want to F it up. So it's a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, you can't treat quarterbacks this way. That's what I think is happening right now with Justin Fields. Let's go to Stephen Morey. Thank you, Jeff, for being a joy to listen to. You're welcome. Do you think that Pickens' shenanigans affected the rest of the offense? I honestly don't. I honestly don't think that they did. I think that it might impact the prep. If he's doing this crap at practice, they might say, look, man, can we get it together? Like we want to win some games. I don't know. I'm not there. So I can't comment on that. Casual Steeler fan said, hello, Mr. Jeff. In your opinion, what should the Steelers give up to acquire Devontae Adams? He would definitely help the offense, but I think the O-line is a more glaring issue for the Steelers, and I wouldn't want them to overpay for an aging star wide receiver. So I would say that Devontae Adams, I'd probably give up a third-round pick for him. If they want a player involved, it depends on who that player is. I'm not giving up George Pickens, just so we know that. But I know the offensive line might be more glaring, but they need playmakers too. I like this offensive line configuration if it stays healthy and they start to gel. Ed Cunningham, he asked a couple questions. Jeff, thanks for being there post-game on Sunday. I needed you guys to help me process the loss. Question, do we overvalue George Pickens? He's a freak of an athlete, but I'm getting tired of his me first BS. Favorite post-game comment was Muth, it's the stuff you do without the ball. And he said, regarding the third down issues, why on earth is Arthur Smith calling a running back sweep on 3rd and 7? And then why would Fields throw the ball 25 yards downfield into coverage on 3rd and 5? Muth was open underneath at first down marker. The coaching was atrocious, and Fields was just off. I agree with you on Fields. I agree with you on the coaching. I don't know why they ran that sweep on 3rd and 7. I don't know why Fields chose to throw into double coverage because they had a high safety on that side on 3rd and 5. I don't know if we overvalue George Pickens. I think he just kind of needs to live up to the hype for once. I think that's a big issue here, is that he just has to kind of live up to the hype. I think he's believing in his own hype, but I think he needs to start playing at a higher level. All right, let me find here somewhere if I can find the tweet here from Steeler Fan 69, who always provides a little comic relief at the end of the podcast. You know how he does it. Here we go. Somebody should market a beer called Occasionally. So when asked, I can say, I only drink occasionally. I love it. How many golfers does it take to change a light bulb? 4. F-O-R-E. Get it? He said, I have an Elton John joke. It's a little bit funny. And if you've ever heard that song, I think it's your song, isn't it? It's a little bit funny. This feeling inside. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, folks. That's it. That's a wrap for this podcast. Went a little long. I enjoyed this. It was very therapeutic. Got a lot of stuff off my chest. Hope you did too. Make sure you join us on Friday where we have All Bets Are Off, heart-to-heart parlay, which sucked last week, by the way. We're going to have behind enemy lines. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you check out all of our stuff at steelcurtainnetwork.com, as well as on our podcast platform. Check us out. You don't want to miss it. But that does it for me. You know, he finishes these out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.